So round one is a potpourri. So in the potpourri round, as you all know, it's a collection of questions that are from mixed bag of topics. 6 questions on infinite bounds. So most of you know the bounds rules. So if a question starts from team 1 and it goes to team 3 and team 3 answers it, the next question goes to team 4. If no one answers, I come back to the team from where the question started. If on 2 consecutive questions, I move on to the next team. Okay? So Pounce rules are very important. So if any team, after I read out the question, think you know the answer in the first 10 seconds, you can raise your hand and indicating me that you know the answer. You need to write down the answers on the sheet of paper and I'll take it forward from there. Right? Clockwise, so be very careful. +10 for a Pounce answer right, -10 if you get it wrong. And there are 2 parts to the question. I need both the parts or else please do not pounce. Right? Clockwise, starting from the first team, +10 for a direct or a pass, no negative marking. So as much as possible, go out and guess. So let's start out with the first round of the first question. Wishing all the national finalists the very best. The first question on the screen, going to School of Law, Christ, your question. This is an exhaustive list of certain fundamental rights. Just tell us, what is the common connect? Article 15, Article 16, Article 19, 29, and Article 30. Right? This is an exhaustive list of certain fundamental rights. What is the common connect? Teams which are pouncing, please raise your hand now. I see 2 teams pouncing, and I close Pounce, and I quickly check their answers. So I've seen both the answers. School of Law, Christ University, your answer.
So the rights bestowed under 15, 16, 19, 29, and 30, they're all bestowed to citizens only of India, citizens of India.
So it's bestowed only on the citizens of
India, not persons.
And it's not persons. That's the answer we were looking for. Good 10 points. Right? Teams which pounced, NUJS cracks it with 10 points. Right? Symbiosis Law School, a -10. Right? So they looked at a very historical constitution point of view and gave me an answer. Not quite. So this is the answer we were looking for. Yes. These depict fundamental rights that can be accessed only by Indian citizens and not foreigners or aliens. And as he said, person is what is used in the other rights. Good. So moving on to the next question to Ramjas College, your question on the screen. Right, so there's this concept called the constitutional autochthony, which is a process of asserting constitutional nationalism from a legal or political power. When referring to constitutional autochthony, one is therefore referring to the nativity or the indigenous nature of a constitution. Thus, the constitution is free from external legal control and influence and is made such to ensure it is autonomous and native. In India, the Constituent Assembly was formally authorized by the India Independence Act of 1947, passed by the British Parliament. India achieved constitutional autochthony by 2 deliberate procedural errors. One of the errors was not to get the draft constitution approved by the British Parliament. What was the second procedural error? In fact, I'll probably give out some clues. So this constitutional autochthony was followed by other colonial powers, right? Like, when they got independence. In fact, India was inspired by Ireland to do a similar action, to do these 2 procedural errors very deliberately, right? So you should tell me, if one was not to get the draft constitution approved by the British Parliament, what was the other? So in many ways, you could think of this as a way to cut the umbilical cord and assert your own constitution from your own people, right? So there was a procedural, this one that they did. What was that? Yeah? Anyone pouncing? Right, no one taking the risk with the pounce. Moving on to Ramjas College.
Including the words, we the people of India in the preamble. So they said the preamble derives the constitution derives all its power and it is formed by the people of India, not by anyone else. So the words, we the people of India in preamble.
Good thinking. Moving on.
The invitation letters which was sent in the name of Dr. Sachidanand Sinha instead of Lord Wavell, who was the then Viceroy of India.
Okay. Again, good thinking answers from the national teams. So obviously, quality of the national teams, finals teams. Yes,
The British monarch was not the head of state in the constitution.
the British
Monarch was not kept as the head of the state.
was not kept as a head of state like in Australia or something. Not quite. Moving on.
So they never repealed the India Independence Act. As in, they didn't repeal it by the constitution.
Okay. So, analyst, what's your final answer?
As in, they did not repeal the Indian Independence Act.
Okay.
So I guess it still exists, it still operates. That's a procedural error.
Okay. Moving on.
So, they repealed the Indian Independence Act and the Government of India Act 1935 in the final savings and savings of the Constitution, and they only saved the Privy Council Act, and they abolished every previous legislation. Yeah, they abolished the Parent Act that authorized itself. The Constituent Assembly was authorized by
The Indian Independence Act itself was repealed.
That's the simple answer we were looking. Unfortunately, NLS, see, if they had not repealed it, then we could have not asserted our constitutional autochthony. So I think you got a little mixed up, but GNLU kind of cracked up on that. So very good answer, GNLU getting it right. By Article 395, the Constitution repealed the Indian Independence Act passed by the British Parliament, something it did not have the legal authority to do, because as you notice, that Indian Independence Act was a British act, right? We didn't have the authority to do it, but we did it, and by that, we asserted our constitutional autochthony. Good answer, 10 points to GNLU on that. The next question, Symbiosis Law School, Pune, your direct. The dash began in the foothills of the Himalayas and snaked its way through 3,680 kilometers of today's Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh to reach the east coast. A.O. Hume, the founder of Congress, the commissioner who was at that time for Dash, noted that at its peak in 1869, maintaining and managing it required a total workforce of over 13,923 officers and men. The officers were British and the workmen local. This was manned and patrolled on a 24/7 basis and required extensive maintenance. A.O. Hume was so proud of it that he can even proudly compare it to the Great Wall of China, alike its greatest work and chiefest safeguard. While it has fallen into disuse in independent India, part of its remnants were found. We managed to get one pic here of Paligar village near Chakangar, Etawah, UP. What is spoken of here? Okay, teams which are pouncing, please raise your hand. I see 4 teams pouncing. I close Pounce and I check their Pounce answers. So I've seen their answers. And the direct was to Symbiosis Law School, Pune. Yes.
This is the Great Hedge of India. Do you want a concept as well?
What is it? Yeah, go on.
So it's a line drawn to stop Indians from trading salt, basically.
I'll give it to you. It is the Great Hedge of India, or the Indian Customs Line as it was called. So the whole thing was called the Indian Customs Line. The Great Hedge that you spoke of was the green line from here, which was part of the Indian Customs Line. And this was what we were talking about. I'll give it to you. Good 10 points for Symbiosis Law School, Pune. And teams which bounced, if you can raise your hand. So Christ School of Law, 10 points. Ramjas College, 10 points. IIT Kharagpur, 10 points. And Campus Law Center, Delhi, 10 points. So all of them cracking. Good answer, guys. So next question is a direct to Campus Law Center, Delhi. The title of a Wall Street Journal article from 2012 is called In India, Parties Fight Over Political Symbols. In this piece, the author takes a look at the country's unique ballot design, where a wide variety of icons were used for nearly 1,400 political parties today. The piece also focuses on a possible tussle between the Samajwadi Party and the Jammu and Kashmir National Panthers Party in the then upcoming National Capital Territory civic polls. The issue was that both parties were planning to contest the polls and both had the same ballot icon. What was the title of the piece? That's one part of the question, which refers both to a famous 1948 Italian film and the ballot icon of these parties, which other party from South India also shares the same ballot icon? Right, two parts to the question. You'll have to tell, it's a direct for you guys. For teams which are pouncing, I need both the parts right. So one is a reference to this 1948 Italian film, and you should also tell us which party from South India shares has the same ballot icon. So I have two teams pouncing, I close Pounce, and I quickly check their answers. Okay, so I've seen their answers, and a direct to Campus Law Center, Delhi.
Okay, so it's bicycle thieves, TDP, Telugu Desam Party.
Bicycle thieves, and the Telugu Desam Party is the correct answer. Good, all two parts, right? So, a very cheeky way of putting this in terms of the bicycle thieves, they were called because there was a tussle on the ballot icon, and the Telugu Desam Party, which also has the cycle as part as the ballot icon. Good 10 points to Campus Law Center. Teams which pounce, if you raise your hand, Ramjas College cracked it with 10 points, and NLSIU also cracked it with 10 points. Good show. Next question is a direct to Trice School of Law. You guys, whose journey is being described in this song?
Africa, travel to America, America, link together, party and try do things far away from home. Then I traveled down to Germany, Italy, France and in Switzerland. 1934 I reached England and get ready for assassination.
Dad, won't you hear my plea?
What do you mean now?
Before you open up your courts,
I don't want nothing from you.
I don't care if I spend 99 years in jail. Send me to the electric chair.
So whose journey is being described in this song? 5 teams pouncing, and I close Pounce. So I've seen their answers, and a direct to School of Law, Christ.
So is this Udham Singh the one who killed General Dyer a few years later?
That's the answer I was looking for. Very good answer. It's almost a reggae twist to the life of Udham Singh there. So yes, this is Udham Singh, and Udham Singh who went on to assassinate Michael Dyer for his Jallianwala Bagh interference and so on. Yes, good 10 points. So teams which pounce, if you quickly raise your hand. So Ramjas College 10 points. NUJS also pounced 10 points. IIT Kharagpur 10 points. NLSIU 10 points. And Campus Law Center Delhi 10 points. So all of them cracking the answer. Good. Next question is a direct to Ramjas College, you guys. So a certain right was sought to be introduced by the prominent Indian nationalists. But when it came to the constitution making process, this right was abandoned. H.V. Kamath in the assembly moved an amendment that called for this right to be included in the constitution. Separately, Loknath Mishra had also moved an amendment saying, dash is a very real fundamental right. We know that when we are returned to the assemblies, we come there as representing the masses for 5 years. But what we care for is the party caucus, the high command, and if it is pleased, we are all right. We do not care for the people. I therefore submit that if we are to be real members representing the people, our first concern should be the people. They must be our masters. If we serve them well, we are there. If we do not, we must go out. What right are we talking about? So teams which are pouncing, please raise your hand. I see only 4, 5 teams pouncing. If you guys are you guys pouncing? Okay, pouncing teams, please raise your hand so that I know who I need to look at. Are you guys pouncing? I close Pounce. Yes? Okay. So that's your answer. Yes, Ramjas
Right
College.
to recall.
Right to recall. What does that mean?
Right to, if say elected representative is not working, the public has a right to recall them from the office and have
Absolutely.
election.
So just because a public representative has been elected, if that person is not doing his or her job, then we should have the right to recall that legislative or representative member. Right to recall is what we are looking. Good 10 points to Ramjas College. I think a good round of applause for a good answer cracked. Teams which pounced, if you can raise your hand. So 10 points to Symbiosis Law School, 10 points to GNLU, 10 points to NLSIU, 10 points to IIT Kharagpur, a minus 10 for NUJS. Right? Minus 10 for NUJS. They got it wrong. Okay? Fine. So good answers.